Say something. I need some guys to not have on this. Alright, hello. Alright, welcome to the Bellingham zoning board of appeals meeting for Thursday, April 2nd. Motion to open the hearing,
Motion to open the hearing.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First item on the agenda is for 26 Pearl Street. And I do want to thank everyone for coming out. We are going to just, hear from the applicant and discuss among the board, and then we'll open up for public comment.
You like me to read the note? For the public hearing?
Sure.
First,
Yeah.
The Bellingham zoning, board of appeals will hold a public hearing for a special permit to allow a non-listed use for the property located at 26 Pearl Street, Bellingham, Massachusetts. Assessors map 4, lot 60. The approximately 20.8 acre property is zoned industrials. The requested special permit is associated with the town of Bellingham zoning bylaws 240-29C to allow a non-listed battery energy storage facility.
All right, thanks, Rick. Could you just give your name and?
Sure thing. Tom Corbett with Zero Point Development here on behalf of CP Battery Devco for the development at 26 Pearl Street. If I could ask for sharing capability, I can put a plan up.
Should.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Folks, I want to just make something really clear. You cannot block the exits. So you're either gonna come into the meeting or you're gonna have to wait out in the hall. Please, you cannot block the exits. Thank you.
Says it's disabled.
Okay.
You want to just accept a host and then you should be up.
Sharon at that point.
Okay, so we are here to establish the use of energy storage for 26 Pearl Street. We had entered into, so back in 2020, there was an RFP put out for this parcel. And we were awarded that later on in July of 2021. So that RFP contemplates the use of solar energy storage for the site. The RFP that was issued was specifically for battery energy storage. So we had submitted an application package way back when in 2020, and we were awarded that in July of 21. We've been in a ground lease with the town ever since, and the project remains in Eversource interconnection studies, area studies for the past 4.5 years. That is ongoing, nearing completion on Eversource's end. The ultimate determination from that is that they're going to run a brand new 3-phase feeder that will come from the substation and go to the site where the energy that's produced during the day from other solar fields in town is able to be redirected to be stored into these batteries for later use. And that's kind of the directive from Eversource as far as how that gets set up. Typically, these systems get hooked up just like a solar field does on the small scale side as it's this project. But I can go into as little or as much detail as we want to tonight about the system and how it's set up and I guess the technology around it and safety nets around that as well. But before I do that, I guess I'll give a brief overview of energy storage, I guess, and we'll go from there. So back in 2018, late 2018, the state started working on what they call the Clean Peak Energy Standard, which was finalized in early 2020. And what that does is that calls for, it's really the next step in the solar programs. So the solar program started out with the Solar Smart, then it went to the Solar Smart 2.0, which introduced energy storage coupled with the solar fields on site, like a few here in town as well as the surrounding towns. Those systems are typically maxed out at a percentage of the solar output. I believe the Smart 2.0 required about 25%. I think the sweet spot's 25 to 30%, where you'll see most systems out in the field today. So for instance, a 6 megawatt system may have a 6 megawatt ground mounted solar system may have a megawatt and a half co-located with it. So that was a requirement through Smart. As that program succeeded and there was a successful development of hundreds of megawatts of solar as well as energy storage throughout the state. We Zero Point were as involved with that as well. We've got well over 400 anyway megawatts of solar installed over the state, and we've got about 65 odd megawatts of battery storage deployed with those solar fields. So those have been operational since 2018. The earliest we saw standalone energy in the state was through the ACES grant back in 2016, which really kind of rolled out the carpet for the Solar Smart 2.0 and eventual leading up to the Clean Peak Energy Standard that we're following today, which is still out there for a big pipeline of development. So the Clean Peak Energy Standard sets out timeframes in which you can charge and discharge these systems. They have to abide by them in order to receive the credits. So there are charging windows established within the guidelines of CMR 225 for the Clean Peak Energy Standard. And those windows are typical charging windows would be when solar's online. And then the discharge schedules where we would be distributing energy back to the grid happens during your peak demand times where your solar is not really producing. Peak really starts around 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So you might have some tail end solar on the 4 o'clock end certain times a year. But this program allocates the production of the solar during those windows to be able to get stored into systems like these that we're proposing here today. These systems connect to the three-phase grid system, local grid system, not the high tension 115 kV. So these are on 13A, potentially even like a 23 kV line. What we have here around the streets here is mostly 13A, 13.2. So that gets connected to the street side, just in the same fashion as a solar field. It's almost identical setup with a meter, a recloser, as well as a disconnect for the utility company, so that it can be shut off as well. Further, these projects are further restricted based upon the feeder that they're actually connected to. So Eversource has determined that we're so close to the substation here, where they'd like to run an express feeder so that they can kind of manage this energy a little bit more efficiently than it would be if it was like in the middle of a three-phase line. So the energy will be pulled from the grid during times of solar production. It'll be entered back into the grid during times of peak demand when that solar is not online. So that's kind of how the program works in Massachusetts. It's been quite challenging developing these projects over the past 5 years or so, as far as policy and getting the industry off the ground. We do see standalone energy throughout the state right now, in municipalities mainly. So the Massachusetts Wholesale Electric Company within the past few years has been really ramping up for the municipalities that are not part of the larger national grid or Eversource structure, where they're distributing their own power. They all have, not all, but a good vast majority of the 44 odd municipalities in the state have energy storage now, coupled with their substations, as well as solar fields that they operate. So I guess that was kind of a lot already right there. So I guess I'll pause if you have any questions and we can go through the system if you'd like.
Okay, so I guess. Could you go over just a quick little overview of the layout, I guess, of the development?
Most definitely. So I've tried to color this as so we can see this a little bit better together here. Better with this. Yeah, all right. So Pearl Street is here planned south. So off of Pearl Street, over here is there's three small boxes. Those are pad mounted interconnection pieces of equipment. Those are the meters, the recloser, and the disconnect, which can shut the system off. There's also a customer owned disconnect that we as well can shut off without the utility on site. That electric goes underground into the site. So here, there's existing, I'm assuming everybody's pretty familiar with the site. So on the left-hand side of the gate that's there now, or the fence that's there now, there's a gate. We'd be proposing to shift that gate over to the right a little bit. The existing may remain for DPW operations as well, but we would be adding a new gate and a new access drive that would come from the frontage of Pearl Street. That's a 24-foot access drive. We've been in discussions previously, I guess I'll step back a little bit too. We've had communications with the town personnel. We've sat down with the planning department and the conservation and fire department. We've had initial discussions about this project over the past 3 to 4 years. And we've renewed those conversations within the last couple months. And this design here is a product and that reflects the changes and what we've talked about throughout time. So this 24-foot access drive,
That's like a gravel.
that'll be up to the department to determine, but right now, that would be like a reclaimed asphalt. The ground underneath is very stable, so, but that will be determined through the,
And are the
Fire
actual
department.
battery, is it the orange and the yellow, or I guess I'm curious.
yeah, I'll get back into the site there. So the meat of it, right? So we've got. I want to try to zoom in so you guys can make.
And I
it out.
can see that the blue, so those are the wetland setbacks, is that correct?
That's right. So obviously we've got the Charles River, over here to the plan right. And then we've got the delineation line, the wetland delineation line is the, darker green line. I guess it looks black from here. And then out here, we've got that's 100 foot, the blue one.
Okay,
A 100-foot buffer mark. So that is the wetland jurisdiction, anything between that bordered vegetated wetland and top of bank out to that 100-foot. We've also here on site, we've got riverfront as well. So we've got the red here, that red line there is the riverfront. And then on the opposite side, you've got a 100-foot buffer from the wetlands. There's a small wetland system over to the east, to the west side of the property, that runs along that gravel road that's existing today.
what's the magenta one again? You said it's the river?
That magenta is the 200-foot riverfront.
Oh, gotcha, because the blue is the red and then the magenta's the two.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. And then it goes back to blue on the other side for the western wetland system. So
So it's fully within the 200 feet and it abuts the 50 foot.
it's everything.
Charles.
So everything's outside, the system itself is placed outside of the 100-foot. It is within the 200-foot, outside of the 100.
What's the gray to the right of where your pointer is? You got a gray area, there's a light blue right here.
That's the infiltration basin?
Yeah, so that all is an infiltration basin, and I'll get a little bit into the system first, and then we'll hit that. So within the fenced in area here in the, I guess it's a little bit darker gray, right? You'll see the orange boxes. Those orange boxes are the battery storage containers. So there's 5 containers for this site.
Are they lithium ion? based or?
It's a lithium ion battery. The chemistry is a lithium iron phosphate,
Okay.
which
And then
is,
what's the yellow?
so the yellow box there is what they call a medium voltage skid, or medium voltage substation. That includes the inverter and the transformer that needs to make the power conversion to go back to the grid. So you've got the orange boxes as the 5 energy storage containers. And then you've got the 2 yellow medium voltage substations. You can have a max of 4 per yellow box there. So 4 battery containers per medium voltage substation. So this site, given what's here, we've laid this out in a long format. So we've got 2 separate sides of the system. There's also a little bit of mindset behind that alongside of safety and fire propagation, things like that. So underneath so where you see the containers themselves, there's a little bit of a blue around those containers. So that area that's highlighted in blue is actually a subsurface secondary containment system. So that's polyethylene vinyl subsurface containment system. So it essentially creates a bathtub underneath these containers. So in normal operation, day to day, those are 2 separate secondary containment systems. They don't connect. They get evacuated. One goes north, one goes south. So during normal operation, there's a lot to get through here. So, during normal operation, the secondary containment systems exit rainwater to daylight. And I guess I'll zoom in, maybe we get a better look at that. So this blue area here is what we're talking about. And then there's a dark blue line that comes outside of that containment system. So within the square box there will be almost sort of a drop basin. It'd be more of like a distribution box that collects all the water. So that secondary containment system has a little bit of a pitch, plan east. And then that pipe that runs north to south on the edge of the containment system is a perforated pipe that collects all the rainwater, evacuates it out to that distribution box, which then goes to yet another distribution box, that then goes to the sediment forebay of the site, which will then be into the infiltration basin. And that does the same thing on the north side as well. Show you here. So containment system, perforated pipe along here, distribution box out to another distribution box, and then to the sediment forebay. So I just want to make a few comments here on the secondary containment. One, the project's subject to a notice of intent, obviously within the 200-foot riverfront, as well as within the 100-foot for work. So we will be submitting to the Conservation Commission, as well as Mass DEP for this project. I've permitted quite a few of these projects over the past 5 years. DEP has now come down with general guidance, and they now recommend this exact type of secondary containment, and that will be a comment through the NOI process from DEP. They'll have a couple different options as to how an applicant can comply with their regulations that they're bringing down. And this is one of them. So this is a complete catchment of any water that's around the containers itself. Normal operations, exits to daylight. Now, during, say, something happens, say a battery cell, the system finds a fault. Depending on what type of fault it is, it can trigger that valve to close by way of powering or unpowering that. There's an automatic valve within the first distribution box within the containment system itself. So there's a valve that can be remotely and autonomously controlled to shut and create the bathtub. And each containment system holds a certain amount of water. So in total here, between these two secondary containment systems is about 17,000 gallons worth of secondary containment for water runoff in the event of fire activities or anything. So it's pretty robust. The DEP also requires they require an automatic system, and on top of that, they also require a secondary manual valve. Or a way to plug the outlet pipe that goes to the sediment forebay or detention basin, whatever the site is calling for. So here we have the secondary distribution box that will have a T valve that can be shut off if say the valve wasn't shut, or you're gonna do it anyway, right? You're gonna do the secondary.
The
shut.
site will be remotely monitored though, correct?
That's right. So the system is,
How often would people, do you expect, go to just observe or go for maintenance, just to check up?
yeah, so to touch on that, I guess, during construction, obviously there's people there checking the systems. Upon mechanical completion, we're gonna be closely monitoring that site. Probably people there weekly, daily, for a while, making sure that system's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then after that, it's just like really any other solar farm. You've got your regular scheduled maintenance. These battery systems have their regular scheduled maintenance items as well. Checks on torque, checks on fittings, checks on labels, tags, electrical connections, paint on the exterior of the container, making sure doors are locked. There are things in the operation and maintenance program that have to be checked. And those things happen on, we'll say, a quarterly basis, just for now, I guess, as time goes on. Once the system's up and running and operational, healthy, it's about a quarterly check. There are some other items that pull us there sooner as well. And then on top of that, I guess, to touch on how it's monitored, it is monitored remotely. Nobody's staffed on site looking at this all day long. It's just like your batteries out in your solar fields. They're monitored from afar. Your solar fields are monitored from afar. Those reclosers and meters can be adjusted and touched and shut off from afar. The system itself is pretty sophisticated. There are several layers to what they call a battery management system. The battery management system tracks everything from heat signals to voltage thresholds to vibrations to humidity to heat to smoke. So trending cells, it monitors cells in the milliseconds for voltage, which then it can trace for heat. And then these systems are also liquid cooled, so they're not just air cooled. Some components have an air cooled feature to them, but the batteries themselves are liquid cooled. So there's a liquid cooling system, keeps the batteries operating at optimal temperature at all times. And if a system was trending warm, that battery management system can shut off that part of the system, continue to monitor it, continue to have other pieces of the system still operate. It may shut down that whole container.
That automatic?
That is automatic, yeah. So there's an intelligent piece of it where it's learning over time, and that's where, like, that first period where it's learning is where we're really monitoring, make sure it's making its checks. And then once that system has learned itself, it actually can start predicting, which is just an AI piece of life these days.
So I think that's great, I guess, but try not to get too far into the details. But yeah, because I'm sure, and I'll open it to the public in a little while, but I'm sure some of the concerns, like, I'd love to know about, I'm sure everyone, the neighbors would have concerns about if anything were to happen for fire or anything else. But then the other would be just, what's the I guess the daily, like, I'm curious about, like, what have you looked into, what's the mitigation for, because there isn't a neighboring neighborhood.
Yep.
So can you speak to kind of like the noise level or as far as like mitigation?
Most definitely. Yeah, yeah, and we expect, just like we have in our narrative here, we expect this project to be fully vetted through the Conservation Planning Board, peer reviews, however the town sees fit. So during normal up and through that process, right now, we're in the process now of collecting ambient noise, readings for the site. So that way we have our baseline, so that we can then model that, to what the noise levels are for the system, which are given to us from the system manufacturer. These systems go through vigorous testing to the point where they set these things on fire in a full system. So the noise levels, we're confident are not gonna exceed anywhere near the DEP thresholds. I don't even think really this would even need a sound wall. These systems are small. This is not a system that's like the one across the easement, the Highline easement. This is a 1/50th of the size of that project. This is a 5 megawatt project, which I think the other larger projects are 250. And I only speak to that because the more you put these pieces of equipment next to each other, the more that sound attenuates. And the more sound that you're generating. So we try to be thoughtful in the way that we set our system up, which is why also we separate the north and south pieces of equipment here to better distribute that sound and to not have it all in one spot. So it's creating a louder atmosphere. So what we do for the sound, we go out, we get the ambient, we have our sound engineer do the modeling. That modeling will tell us at certain distances what that decibel level will be.
Is the sound like a constant or does it have different?
No, it is
Okay.
not.
What generates the sound?
Mostly the fans, mostly fans.
How
So
often does it tend to come on or is it kind of like as needed?
9 times out of 10, you would never even know that this thing is sitting out there. And that, and I can attest to that. If you go to any one of the solar fields around here that have a battery storage, you'll hear anything, the only thing you're really gonna hear is the inverter when the sun's out for the solar. The battery, very quiet. These systems are quiet overall. When you start packing them together in the hundreds of containers, they start getting really loud. So there are balances in the way that we need to look at things as far as system size, system layout, and how the sound actually happens. So we'll get very heavy into that with our sound analysis, and our tech environmental is our sound people,
And
sound
then-
engineer.
Do the acoustical engineers release a report
Yes.
based on your baselines and then your estimated, and do you use CADNA software or something?
That's right,
equivalent
yeah.
For the acoustical modeling?
That's right. So the acoustical modeling gets put into a 3D software. It takes out your pure tones. So when we get our first baseline level, it's gonna be the lowest level that they observe over a 7-day period. And then that gets put into the 3D model. All the inputs for every piece of equipment that's on site gets ran up to 100%, like it's run, the system never runs at 100%. It barely runs at 40%. But the sound levels, we have to model as worst case scenario. So worst case scenario gets put into the 3D model. The sound levels from a meter, we'll say 75 decibels, gets put in. And then that gets ran through the model as far as what's in it. Like, is there a fence there? Is that fence creating any kind of acoustical bounce? So the sound gets dispersed differently, what the topography is doing. The model's not concerned about trees. It's not looking at trees. It's assuming a blank canvas, nothing in its way, except for the topography of the site, because that has to accurately depict where that overflow of the sound's going to go.
Are the fans at the top? Where are the fans
At the
located?
fence. Yeah, we'll have, in the model, we'll model the fence itself, because that is kind of built into our mindset of the sound.
I meant the fans, they're making the most sound. Are those at an elevation or are they kind of ground level?
The fence is just a 7 foot.
Fans.
Oh, fans, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
what
no,
makes
so the
noise,
fan,
right?
so the fans are at the top of the box.
Right.
And that forces the air into the box, and it goes down and around and comes back
And
out.
how high?
So it's about 8.5 feet at the top. Yeah,
That's for cooling.
It's for cooling of the DC to DC
And when
converters.
you're doing the measurements of the noise, are you doing it at a height?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes, and then we'll model, so what we do is we model all the nearest residences at the second story
Mhm.
as well. So we're not just modeling, it's like you're standing on the property line, you're modeling it to the second story. And it gets pretty in-depth and we expect to issue a full report, a sound analysis, and potentially through the planning board, I would assume that it would probably get peer reviewed by another company. There's many of them out there that do it. Pretty common for these projects. I'm pretty sure every project that we do a sound analysis. Really kind of checks the boxes on our ends too, because we need to know if we're gonna be compliant with DEP in the long run. And we want to make sure we're building a good product.
Okay. And yeah, Joe,
Just want to let you know that Peter, our fifth zoning board member is online.
Do you have a question?
On Zoom. He did have his hand raised.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to
Yeah,
recognize
go
him,
ahead.
Peter would have to just unmute his mic.
Peter, are you there?
Don't muted.
Well, he's figuring out, can I ask a question about lighting? What kind of lighting would be required for a site like
We
this?
have no lighting proposed on the site.
Okay, no lighting at all.
No, any lighting that's needed would be brought with a technician.
can I ask, and I'm sure this, can you speak to kind of fire suppression and about any issues if there was any kind of issues with the batteries?
Definitely. So as far as fire protections go, your battery management system is your number one defense. Mainly because that's tracking the operation of the system and making sure it's healthy, making sure it's at a good state of charge, making sure there are no heat indicators rising. And that's really your first line of defense. And Massachusetts is really good with codes and compliance and NFPA, and we have to follow NFPA 855. There's new revisions coming out to 855. There are large scale fire testing requirements through UL 9540 standards. These systems also now have to go through a large scale fire testing as part of the new 9540A as a unit level. So these manufacturers are actually putting a system just like this, actually, as a 5 megawatt system in the field, and they're burning a $5 million system. And they're setting fire to it. And they're looking at what the heat does under different circumstances, whether you're actually putting water onto the containers or letting it burn. This manufacturer here is Sungrow Manufacturing. They had recently done large scale fire testing in, I think, later half of last year. And they see zero propagation container to container. And that's with zero water touching the containers at all. And then if you are to use water on site, now on this plan, you'll see some blue lines kind of crossing through, connecting to these containers. The orange containers, the battery containers, they all have a dry pipe plumbed to them. It's like a 2-inch water line that goes to the deluge water, the deluge sprinklers that are inside of the container. Not advisable to connect to. They're there. That will be worked through in the finalization of an emergency response plan and how those actually get utilized. There is no automatic suppression. Automatic suppression and water in general inside of these containers is, it feels good, right? It feels good to do that and feels good to try to do something about it, but it actually could cause more problems than it does any good. So you could create more electrical sparks or arcs, and you can really make things go south by just dumping water on these. So our energy store, our fire consultants kind of give us the approach of, you're gonna find your source, you're gonna see what container it's at, you're gonna look to see what's surrounding it, right? And you're gonna use a fogging pattern to try and keep the surrounding exposures safe. You're gonna let the energy burn out of that container fully, because there is no putting it out. There's
looks like
no
you have,
extinguishing a thermal runaway.
Is the 15 feet, is that kind of like the minimal distance? Cause it looks like you have gravel around, so it's not near.
Separation of
And
the
the
systems. Yeah, so separation of the containers is really driven by those other fire testings that are the UL 9540A testing, which includes that large scale fire testing, which then guides you into what you can do as far as systems being close. So these systems go back to back where the containers have doors, they're 10 feet apart. This system's not really set up like that, but they go back to back. 6-inch spacing for some airflow. They've got 2-hour fire rated walls. They've got internal fire rated walls as well. Where they see each other on the short end, that's a separation about 5 feet. And that's all that is required through the fire testing. So that's kind of how that's set up, I guess.
Well, yeah, I was just curious because it looks like you have the chain link fence, so that if there was a fire, there's gravel all around it up to the chain link fence.
That's right. And
So the idea to kind of keep it contained.
yep, full gravel site, chain link fence has to be a minimum of 10 feet. But I think we're here at 12 feet, 15 feet and then 24-foot alley on the other side of it. That's electrical code stuff as far as distance to fence and things like that nature.
So I have a question about the, let's just say, I don't want to say worst case, but let's just say it catches on fire, right? And you can't put it out too easily. What's the zone around it from a temperature perspective? I'm not really articulating it correctly, but I've been to car fires where there are electric vehicles and you can feel the heat quite hot, 20, 30 feet away. So I don't know how this compares to what an electric car generates, but if it were to catch on fire, how far away do other structures need to be so they're not thermally affected negatively? Does that make sense?
6 inches,
6 inches.
that's how the system's set up.
So I stand 6 inches from that fire.
No, you
I'm
do
not
not
gonna
want to be standing 6 inches.
Exactly.
You're saying-
There's houses around it, so I'm just trying to get an idea of what that zone is from a
So-
safety perspective.
So these fires burn hot.
Yeah.
So when the fire, if there was a fire in the container, the roof is designed to deflagrate.
Mhm.
So when you do have fire, it goes up.
Mhm.
That heat is substantial. To have a radius of 150 feet would be substantial to be able to stand back, assess the situation, and then for a fire personnel to proceed from there. But staging area would typically be about 150 feet away, typically, for safety command.
And
But
you
yeah.
said most of the time usually let it burn out. Is that kind of the typical? Because you can't really.
So with
Suppress.
these nylon batteries, when they catch on fire, we say fire, it's a thermal event. It's a heat event. You don't put out a battery fire.
Doesn't
The
require
battery,
oxygen.
the battery has to expel all of its energy. Systems are now becoming more and more sophisticated where now this battery management system's thinking about that. So when this system here sees a fault, this system can dump energy. So that it can remove energy out of the affected area to be able to lessen the duration of the thermal event.
So does that mean that it's not supplying it with more energy, basically?
It's disconnected completely and it's finding a ground somewhere to lose it, or it's putting it somewhere else in the system. So there are other pieces like that
I guess
that
the
lessen.
question, which was a good one, is there anything within that 100 to 150 feet that could get affected?
No, if a fire personnel was to approach the fire, they're gonna look at the exposures around it. They're gonna they're gonna let that burn out. And they're gonna let that fire burn as ugly as it might look. You're gonna put a fogging pattern maybe to control some initial smoke on the early onset of the fire. Much of those gases are consumed by the high heat of the heat rate on these is pretty substantial. And it eats up all those initial gases that everybody gets concerned about. But in those gases get consumed, close proximity to the the container, right? So, that heat, I couldn't tell you how far away you need to be as far as what you might be able to feel on your hand, but,
Yeah, I was thinking
it's-
safety.
yeah, it's a substantial, but, so again, if that container, if one of those containers was on fire, that other one's not catching on fire.
Even though it's.
Even without any water. So the way that these systems are designed, the liquid cooling, they are able to mitigate the propagation of a thermal event. So
you built multiple systems, it sounds like, over the last 5 years at Simmons. Have you had any, for lack of a better term, catastrophic failures where something caught on fire and burned? Because I'd like to understand what happened in that particular situation, especially to the adjacent structures, homes or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep, so Massachusetts has never seen a battery storage fire on on an outdoor system like this, ever. So no, we have never had an event on any of our systems. I can't say the same for other states, but there are plenty of case studies out there, that our fire consultants are heavily, probably the most involved in the country and nationwide, and I guess outside of the country as well, on how to handle these fires. And,
So that these outdoor facilities, how long have they been in Massachusetts to say that there's no bill?
so we've had energy storage here as a standalone unit since 2016 in Massachusetts. 10 years. And there's probably close to over 1,000 megawatts of energy storage in the state right now on solar fields.
But what does that represent in terms of
benefits?
units?
As far as units?
Yeah, as
So
far
if
as
you
the battery
figure,
storage units.
oh,
'Cause it
hundreds,
sounds impressive, but I don't. Tons.
hundreds. So a typical solar field these days, when it gets developed, it at least have one. So a bigger solar field would have 2, 3 containers. So there are literal hundreds, 500, 600 battery storage containers out there throughout the entire state, north, south, east, west, everywhere, including Oak Bluffs, including Carver has a big one, has a big system. The Medway one's a big system, but there are hundreds of little batteries everywhere.
Can you speak to, I guess, the size of this one and the proximity to the neighborhood?
Sure.
Have you done
Yeah.
installation similar?
Yes, we have. So these systems connecting to the 3-phase grid. They're small, this is a very small scale battery storage system. This is a step above what you would have on a solar field. It's adding 2 containers to it, right? It's the same exact technology, same exact connection to the grid. It's operating in the same fashion, except for it's not directly connected. So I guess as far as we have systems permitted throughout the state already for this exact system design, maybe a little bit different of a layout. It might be a more square instead of a more elongated site. But we're typical, a 300-foot is what we kind of look for from a resident.
Okay, so from like a house or
Yeah,
from structure or from
structure.
property line?
Structure.
Okay.
Joe, I actually have a quick question for you. On this, we're deciding whether or not we can add this to something that's not listed as industrial. Let's say we did pass it, does it have to go back to the planning board?
This does require approval through the planning.
Okay, so anything related to the,
The first step is, because one of the things is that, these types of, facilities have been identified and approved, as was stated by, the applicant, as accessory structures within solar fields. So that connection, as far as this is a standalone use for something that was deemed as accessory to a principal use as a solar field, that's the connection that brings it in, that this use isn't specifically specified, but that correlation between that principal use, this being accessory, then is why this is here, as opposed to a use that isn't even remotely tied or sort of referenced within the zoning bylaw use table.
Okay.
Yep, and the RFP requires us to follow the solar bylaw, which outlines your design, safety, and other criteria, within the planning board as part of the permit
Was that-
development plan.
Is Peter still having technical difficulties? Is he able?
He could not, unmute, and he is gonna be here in about 15 minutes, so I assume we're still gonna be, in the hearing in
Okay.
15 minutes.
Did we, because the fire chief is present,
Correct.
do you mind just coming out and have you just kind of your experience with fire suppression with these kind of facilities?
This applicant stated, here in Massachusetts, since 2016, there's been zero incidents. And I want to be very clear, folks. We already have these in town in your solar fields. Have we had any incidents with them?
In neighborhoods or?
You have one right on Maple Street. You have another one up off of Williams Way. So
Oh,
those
do you want to
battery
address
storage-
the board?
Hold on, I'm not here to debate. You asked me if we had
Yeah,
any.
just
incidents.
address the
Through you,
board
sir.
and then we will open
Right.
up to the public.
So, no, we have not had any incidents. This applicant is correct. The fire code standard is well above us. And they have to mandate it through the NFPA 855, which is revised every 5 years, and it is in revision as we speak. And the UL code. So state code, federal code, national codes are all gonna dictate how this comes.
Okay.
And that's what we're, as the fire department, are bound by. Fire suppression, to how we handle it, to how we respond, to what the hazard mitigation plan is, all that is well spelled out, well above us at the national level.
Thanks.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
Chairman, just a few questions. How long do they typically last, the batteries? How often do you replace them, maintain them?
Yeah, good point. I
And,
haven't had that. The batteries typically under normal operation, how these are, they're not really charged up and discharged heavily, so they last a good amount of time. So typically 15, 20 years, which is why a lease period would typically be about a 20-year period. And then after that period, if the system was to stay, if the lease was to extend or what have you, the system can be easily replaced. So these containers come full kit. So the container itself is already done. It's already, you make a plug and play connection, we'll call it, for the lack of better, to the electrical system that is underground on site. So you get the container comes in on a truck and it gets put down with a crane. And then upon any kind of repower, upon any kind of post-fire event where a container needs to be taken off-site, the whole thing goes. You're not handling anything on site, so there's no concerns around that, handling batteries. There's a big concern handling batteries in general, and all the solar fields that are out there now, 90% of those, all those batteries get handled on site, so these containers have been enhanced over time, to really
You
be
spoke about
safe.
thermal runaway events. How about chemical leaking? If should that happen, and let's say then you decommission it, does anything stay around the site? Or is it fully contained 100%, and then you decommission it, you replace it, zero chemical traces will be found? Should someone test the soil or
Mhm,
or
yeah.
groundwater?
All that testing happens, yes. So upon an emergency event, if there was a fire, and water was used, obviously we've got our secondary containment system that's keeping it all confined. Somebody like Clean Harbors would come, connect to that distribution box, suck that water out. That entire pit would likely be excavated, that, and the bottom of that would be, taken out. We see through discussions with our, fire engineers or, and safety consultants, they say that it's typical if there was no containment, they'd scrape about 3 inches off the ground, test the soil, that's what they're seeing. So to speak a little bit on water runoff quality, to your point of chemicals, it's clean, it's pretty clean. So the ESRG, who's been doing most of our fire consultant work over the years, they have a facility in Ohio. They burn these products every day. They do controlled burns. They test the way that they're approaching the fire, seeing what's beneficial as approach and what's detrimental, what's going to make the fire do bad things, is it better to sit back and relax? So with that, they worked with the Electric Power Research Institute, National, and they worked with them for 3 years. They collected data sets on water quality runoff, and that's public information now. And they're actually allowed to take the water from their facility that they're required to hold and put it into the city sewer system at this point in time because of the testing that they're getting and the water results at the end of the day, based upon the way that they're approaching the fire. That's not to say you can do that every time. If water infiltrates the container, you're a little bit different of a story. Your water quality is going to be a lot worse. That's why you don't put water inside. You let that energy burn out. It consumes everything. It consumes, I mean, these burn cleaner than a house fire in the sense of gases and things of that nature.
How about PFAS? Is there any testing of PFAS? I know that's one of the newer things.
DEP will mandate a full cabin. And that's responsible party of us.
And industry standard, how often have failures happen? I know you haven't seen much in Massachusetts, just the history of batteries.
For sure.
What percentage you'd say that have had catastrophic failure?
Very low, very, today, very low. Over the past 10 years, I'll say since 2016, there have been, for these types of systems, and this is small, so for this type of system, really only in the past 3 years, there's been 2 or 3 in New York. So a couple of different counties in New York, Convergent Energy had a few projects in 2023, few fires there. They did post-fire testing on surfaces. One of them was right behind a school, so there was like some big controversy going on, right? So they did swabs of surfaces, no high content of anything. Air quality meters read normal the whole time while that fire was burning. Post event, that system's back up and running. There is a full investigation that goes on afterwards to find the source of that, the cause of that fire or that thermal event, which then gets reported back to authorities, whatever, what have you. And then they're allowed to put the system back online. There's been several in New York. The biggest state that has fire is is California. There's a lot of nuances around why. They don't, so the fires that have happened in California predominantly have happened within buildings. So they're making old power plants into virtual power plants by way of batteries inside of a room with a roof, with no visuals, with no good ventilations, lots of airspace. There are things that enhance smoke that our fire personnel aren't going to go in. So Moss Landing specifically has had probably a half a dozen, if not more, fires over the years. And those systems tend to create a pretty volatile fire event and a very long duration because you're not inside the building. You're not going to be able to get inside that building. You don't have eyes in there to see where you can go. These systems outdoor, visually you can see what's going on. You can identify what container actually is having an issue, if there is one. But to broadly answer your questions, about 50 in the last 10 years. Massachusetts alone has over 1,000 megawatts. California has thousands of megawatts in one site. Different projects over time, but one physical location. The probability of a fire has diminished drastically since 2019, where we first really saw it in Surprise, Arizona. That's when containers were habitable. These are non-habitable. There's less airspace, less room for gases and air to mix and fire to happen. Ventilation systems are sophisticated, active, and to that.
Let me go back just to the location. What's the closest abutters to your site?
Yep. I have
You know,
that.
yeah, you know the distance to the closest residence, for example.
347 feet
To a structure, is what it's saying.
to a structure.
Right.
Not to the property.
That's correct.
How far again?
347 feet.
Did you say 300 is the minimum?
We like, so
Or what's the
that,
recommend?
that comment came from where we like to cite sites. We,
Okay.
so when I go and I look for a site, we like to have a buffer around the site of about 300 feet. We could be less, we could be more. We have sites that are a whole lot less than that. A lot of it comes down to sound, right? So the sound is really gonna kind of dictate where you can go, because now you have to meet DEP policy. So within 100, 150 feet of these, you really you don't want to introduce that close to the residents, right? Because the sound level is going to be amplified. It may still meet DEP, which is great, awesome, but you want to make a good project and you want the neighborhood to be quiet still. So we try to keep it a double distance. So we look to have about 300-foot buffer, but you could be as close as 10 foot to a structure
For
per
the,
NFPA.
for this size, if I may, what's the decibels right up against it?
So they measure it from a meter away,
Okay.
and that's 75 decibels.
Not as high as expected.
Yeah, it's about a lawnmower, right? Yeah.
And they're not running those fans on a routine maintenance schedule like data centers do. You know, they'll run to cool things down and periodically, you know, once a week or whatever their standards are. Do these fans operate on that or only when?
The fans are active.
So they're continuous.
They're active. Yep. They're making sure the system's staying at the temperature it's supposed to be at. And really, it's the power conversion that has the fan motor. And it's forcing air down through that power, conversion, similar to what you're thinking, like as like a PC rack.
It's stated it's not 100%. The fans are not running 100% most of the time.
That's correct. That's right. Yeah. They're kind of just spinning, yeah. They're not forcing air hard unless it's probably discharging. I would assume that it's gonna have the loudest noise, right?
So it has both fans and liquid cooling system?
Yep, so the liquid cooling takes care of the battery modules themselves. There's a plate underneath each module, and we'll get heavy into that in the planning board, but that cools the battery. The fans are cooling the power conversion units.
Nice.
Just like a server rack, almost,
Now you're in close proximity to the Charles, relatively speaking, and to other wetlands. What if there's a 100-year flooding event? And and the water rises up and it wets that area, these containment boxes and whatnot. Is that ever modeled out? Have you ever had that situation occur in one of your other sites?
Yeah, we have to be outside of a flood elevation. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to insure the site. So we are above whatever that elevation is dictated. Which I think this site, we're actually bringing it up a little bit just for assurances as well. But yes, we I don't know how to help.
Have you had any of your other previous sites flood?
Never,
Never.
proper sighting. That's first and foremost.
So there is the infiltration basin spillway. That seems like the fail-safe. It could potentially come out that way towards the Charles. Is that correct?
So that the infiltration basins for the rainwater on a daily basis.
But is the spillway, I guess, to Don's point?
Yeah, that goes to.
And I know you have a bunch of fail-safes, but potentially could, if it overflows the basin, go out the spillway.
For the secondary containment.
I guess what like Don's saying is worst case scenario.
So when we're talking about worst
would it
case
go
scenario, we're talking about
to the Charles?
contaminants. When we're talking about
Yeah.
contaminants, we're talking about fire water runoff. When we're talking about fire water runoff, it's contained to that blue box.
Okay.
No
And
fire
I
water
know that
runoff.
goes for-
Yeah, that's exactly.
If that
This is
secondary
different.
containment was to fill up to a capacity of which you would never use that amount of water. But if it were to, you would hook up the safe harbors truck and evacuate the water. They would be dispatched upon a fire event regardless. They're gonna be there on site. And they're gonna be ready to evacuate water if needed. But you're talking 10,000 gallons worth of storage there on the high side and 6,000, 6,500 on the low side. For this type of a fire event, you're using 3,000 to 5,000 gallons of water.
Yeah, I was more concerned with the Charles River rising up during a flood event and having that affect the property. I remember in Providence and I saw the Wall Mall underwater with
Yeah.
buses and you can only see, the mirrors at the top. So if wherever it rise 8 feet, is that, or whatever it is,
That's a
whatever
good
the
question.
standards are for the state, I want to make sure that this exceeds those standards. Because I personally watched those situations occur in the past and this is the one time that you get a chance to have a positive impact.
That's a good question.
For sure. Yeah, we have to be outside the flood zone.
Give me a minute, grab my bearings.
Yeah.
I was literally coming off the boat when I got on this call, so.
So are Clean Harbors and, the fire department automatically notified as soon as something happens by the automated battery management system?
That's right. It's monitored from afar. The management system is gonna send a signal. The remote operator is gonna call the fire department. This system actually will trigger it from the internal computer to call the fire department, signal the fire department, signal us as an operator to get a technician to the site or subject matter expert anyway, out to the site.
And do you have to calibrate the system I know it self-checks, but sometimes sensors get messed up. I use sensors all the time.
Yeah, it's all part of the maintenance, operation and maintenance, and with the AI piece of it, and that learning, it could really tell you if there's a fault or if there's different readings.
But you would still do like the quarterly, like you're saying, to visually have people
That
go
has
out
to be.
and assess.
That's a requirement, yes.
Okay.
And how many times can you renew the lease? It's as long as it's working.
Yeah, so our other sites, not this one particularly, this one's with, our lease is with the town, and we have a set amount of time period within that lease, but other systems, we've had solar fields, we've renewed leases over and over and over. So long as that the industry is still supporting a project to come back online, the project can remain.
And do you often hear complaints after the installation, let's say a year, 2 years? Do you typically get complaints from butters?
Never. Never, not about the system itself. With solar fields on the side of the hill, maybe some water. But that would be about the extent of the complaints that we hear.
If you don't mind?
Yeah.
I apologize, I was on the call the whole time. You've talked about these battery installations at solar fields. Two questions. How many of these are operational in Massachusetts not connected to a solar field?
I don't have an exact number for you, but I can tell you that Massachusetts Wholesale Electric Company has installed in Holden, Sterling, Templeton, Townsend. I don't know too many down here, but there are numerous, Holyoke.
So does Eversource and National Grid have standalone anywhere
On their grid structure, yes.
in Massachusetts?
Yes.
And the other question I had, you brought up, I think the fire chief brought up Maple Street, solar fields. Is that actually operational at this point and running?
I could not answer that
So
question,
we
but
don't know
from
if that
an
battery-
aerial view, I believe so.
We don't know if that battery unit is actually functioning right now.
I would say that it is based upon an aerial view, and I believe that was built in over a year and a half ago. But I could be wrong. Again, I'm not from town, so I just know what I can see, not aerials.
The last time I had heard it's not operational yet, but I could be mistaken.
There are several others in town that have a battery as well, and in Franklin and in Mendon and Blackstone.
Shall we open it to the public? Did anyone else in the board have any questions? Okay. We're gonna open it up to the public. If you could just,
Actually, can I have one more if you don't mind?
oh, sure.
To the fire chief. Yes, and I believe I actually heard what you had to say. You have no issues with the safety and surrounding homes and,
As I said, through the chair to you, sir,
Yeah.
it's governed well above us.
okay,
It's governed at the federal level, it's governed at the state level, it's governed at the underwriter laboratory level. It's levels that are well above us. All we're going to do is enforce the codes, ensure that it's done properly.
and as our fire chief, I mean, we depend upon you. You are comfortable with the codes that are in place and
Absolutely.
our capabilities of the town to handle a major event that happened there?
I'm sorry, say it again.
And your capability of handling any type of major event that would happen? You're,
Absolutely.
okay.
And that's part of what the code states is we're trained yearly by these companies on what to do. We run drills. That's all part of the NFPA 855. Yeah,
And that's annual?
that's annual.
That's your input is very important to us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll open it to the public, just one at a time, and then if you could just say your name and address and stand up. Yep.
Susan.
My name is Michael Fahey. I live in Medway, just over the town line, next to the Charles River. Based on what Tom Corbett said, this is behind the meter solar. You didn't use those words, but that's what I'm saying. The Eversource is going to take the energy that comes from the local solar grids that have been installed in all the houses over the last years, and they're gonna collect it in this BESS system, which sounds great, but from a technical perspective, what's to prevent either your company or Eversource to start running arbitrage and just grabbing any energy that they want from the grid when it's cheap and sell it when it's hot? I don't see how this is green energy. This is fossil fuel energy being stored. This is what's happening to all the other vessels on the high voltage side. There's very, very little on the ISO New England network that's actually being used to actually take solar energy and store it. If somebody wants to talk to me later, we can happy to share the data with you. It's from the Energy Information Administration for ISO New England, and also look at the other ISOs around the country that do use green energy. But there's no track record in New England or Massachusetts for using BESS with solar energy only. It just doesn't work that way. So I'd like to hear his reply to that, because my understanding of where this is going to be placed, this is just a moneymaker. It's got nothing to do with anything with green energy. So
Thank you. Could you speak to that a little bit? Is it?
So you can't have green energy and you can't have 100% green energy without having a mix in between. The state is pushing for a 100% green energy. In order to bring green energy online, you have to have somewhere to store it. If you don't have somewhere to store it, you now have infrastructure upgrades that you as the tax rate, as the ratepayers are paying for. These systems come online, they absorb that as a non-wires approach to an infrastructure upgrade. So that's where this is policy. We follow the policy in the state to build good projects that other utility companies can buy the credits from these systems, which they're required to buy clean peak energy credits, X amount of them in an increasing proportion throughout time. So these projects have to come online for utilities to be in compliance. Now, to your other point, they can pay a fine essentially to not buy the credits, because we have yet to, in Massachusetts, to be able to really put these on the ground. There's a lot of policy questions over time that have created that. National Grid, Eversource, the way that their systems are designed over time in history, power goes one way. So we're in a digital world. We're in electric cars, electric drills, electric laptops, wireless mice, that everything requires a battery, everything requires energy. And you need it here in the grid, and it needs to be stored here in the grid, because if you're going to have green energy, quote unquote, solar and wind, you need to have something when that stuff's not producing. So that's where policy has driven the development in the state. It's not that us as the developers are coming in here and saying, hey, we want this. The state is saying, bring it. So that's where we're at. And it's not that we're here to make it's not a money maker. Yeah, it's gonna make money, but it is actually charging during the solar production so that they can, over time, remove fossil fuel and add more green energy.
Okay.
I know it's complex, but that's policy.
Not really.
Is there,
Recognize me?
yeah, is there someone else in the audience?
Edward Domestico on Pearl Street. I would like to throw out to all of the people here, the request that we allow Suzanne Domestico, who has arbitrated most of why you people are here, providing information, details, so that this project can be defeated. If no one minds, can we allow her to speak now before everyone?
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
Susan, take it away.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for coming. the turnout is more than I ever expected. I did prepare something because I've done a lot of research, a lot of digging. It's been a full-time job since the 5th of March. So, and I'm a nervous, public speaker. So, if you know, that's for me.
Don't mind stating your address, please.
So my name is Suzanne Domestico. I live at 10 Pearl Street. This project is 2 houses from where I live. And this is, I believe, tell me if I'm correct. This meeting is for the zoning board to vote or maybe have another meeting for a special permit for this project. Am I correct?
That's right.
So if they are not given a special permit, then it does not move forward. Am I right about that?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
So I just want to say that there are a host of issues surrounding this special permit. Among these issues are safety, environmental impact, and impact on a densely populated residential area. When the abutters list went out, and this is a little bit of information besides what I've written down, it was to when people within 300 feet of the project. Cutler Street is on the other side of the river and it faces this lot. Number 2 Cutler Street was notified. There are 10 houses on Cutler and the other 8 homes were not notified. I went door to door to tell the neighbors what was happening. I have people from Franklin that have contacted me personally and asked me, they have been giving out flyers. The flyers have a QR code. I actually do have a petition with more than 200 signatures for people opposing the project. The local zoning, so here, I'll just continue reading because I could talk about other things. So our local zoning board is here to evaluate site-specific impacts, impact on densely populated residential area, environmental sensitivity, and public safety. These are outlined, and I did a lot of research, like I said, in Bellingham's own bylaw. It's under section 240-25, and everybody can reference this. Section 240-25 of the town bylaw states that a special permit should only be granted if the benefits of the project outweigh the negative impacts, especially when you consider specific characteristics of the site. The bylaw requires further consideration of several factors, including traffic, safety of residents, adequate services. In caps, I put neighborhood character because this is especially important to me. And I didn't even think that people over at Dover Farms, there's Palomino Drive in Franklin. I didn't think they would be concerned with this, and boy, I'm telling you, the outpouring.
Just address the board if you don't mind,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but that's okay.
So. And then especially when you consider specific characteristics of the site. The bylaw requires further consideration of several, I already did that one, neighborhood character and caps. Environmental impact, we're really concerned with the river. We are as neighbors. And fiscal impact, including the degradation of property values. Specifically in section 240-25D, it states neighborhood character and social structures. A BESS of this scale represents a fundamental change to the character of our neighborhood. It really does. We're deeply concerned about safety, environmental impact, and long-term risk affecting not only property values, but also our sense of personal security, stability, and our trust in the community. This isn't an industrial corridor. If anybody knows the history of this is a site where there was a mill and it was built in 1735. This is of a time gone by. So along with the Bellingham bylaw 24-25, this is another point. The state of Massachusetts is actively evaluating how to regulate these BESS facilities. Proposed legislation, House Bills 4685, 4689, and 4690 reflect serious concern about siting safety and the need for stronger oversight. This tells us that regulatory framework is evolving for all of these projects. This project is the only one that I'm aware of, which is in an environmentally fragile area of the Charles River. And I believe when we look at the picture that the detainment areas for when there's
the
infiltration of
infiltration.
water.
Yeah,
That, I believe, is within 50 or so feet of the river. So the Charles River also, it's not just Medway, Franklin, Bellingham, but it's everybody downstream from us. That it's multiple communities. So Bellingham actually put out a report. It's called the Open Space and Recreation Plan, dated of 2025, just last year. This Open Space and Recreation Plan, there's a map that you can find on page 35. It has numerous environmental zoning designations on this map. It has NHESP priority habitat, and that indicates presence of rare and protected species. Number 2, it's called CERCLA, CERCLA NFRAP classification. This reflects prior federal environmental review. It has 3 overlays in the zoning. It also has a brownfield designation. This means that the site has contamination considerations, which all of us, people that I've talked to, we don't believe that this has been fully addressed. Like, they can say it's cleaned up. What happens when it's disturbed again? Nobody knows this. So this reinforces all of these factors, reinforce that this location requires heightened caution, not industrial development. The bylaw requires careful consideration when making decision regarding this special permit application. The question before the board is this: do the benefits of the project truly outweigh the adverse impacts on this specific site and this specific neighborhood? Given the environmental sensitivity and the planning conflicts and the impact on the neighborhood character, they do not. Michael Fahey had spoken earlier, and he came from Medway, and he's been so helpful and so informative, and they had a 5-year fight over this. But I just want to say that this also, we walk over to the river where they've restored it on the other side. It's beautiful. If you were, I'm just curious as to, I assume 0 Point has been to the site numerous times. Is that a correct assumption?
Through the chair.
Yes or no?
A dozen or so.
What about are all the zoning board members familiar with the site? Have you been there physically? That's another question.
I have.
One person on the zoning board? So nobody
I've
else
been
has
by.
been there? Wow. So, okay, so we actually walk over to the river quite often. There's an otter family in the area where they've restored the river. Where the river goes under the bridge and to the other side where this is proposed, there's a channel that I don't even know how old this channel is, how stable this channel is. There's numerous questions. And I think that the community coming here this evening speaks volumes as to like where we actually stand. So I'm not sure if there, besides Mike Fahey, there's a couple of other people that were experts. I also know that this is hearsay, I know that. But in another town where a battery energy storage site was recently installed, the fire chief isn't comfortable sending his firefighters to fight these fires. He talks about Moss Landing. I think that and where I see he has the right answers and he's, giving what the answers that we want to hear, of course, to make us feel better. But I was even saying to my husband the other day, well, do we have a go bag? Like, they evacuated people within a 2 mile radius of Moss Landing. And we're not talking about like, oh, let the fire burn. How high does that fire go? The McCarthy's live directly beside it in an antique home. My home is an antique home. If a spark hits one of our houses, we're no longer gonna have a place to live. So I just thank you for listening. I want to thank everyone for coming. I just feel very, very strongly. This is the wrong use in the wrong place. It's a neighborhood. It is not an industrial area. When they say the solar farm on Maple Street has a battery, Maple Street is a different animal altogether. It is not our neighborhood. So I believe that you must deny this special permit. And I want to thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I suppose this should go to the applicant and the fire chief. And I did understand, I heard very clearly about the fire would burn upwards, that the top of the box drops down, yada, yada. Is there a radius of if one or two of these were to catch fire, an evacuation that would have to happen within this residential neighborhood? That been looked at?
I can comment on what our response guidance is. Evacuation's not on that list. That decision is left to the authority having jurisdiction. That is the sole, your department, whoever is in charge at the time, whether it be the chief or deputy chief, that is their decision, or the fire marshal's decision.
That's the reason why I asked the applicant and the fire chief.
And that would be to their discretion. It is not something that is required maybe under winds if a fire department is observing smoke going to a certain direction, then yeah, they could issue that, but that's the discretion of that.
If you don't mind, chief. I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I have first seen a lithium battery burned and I know what they do. See, it is a residential neighborhood. If one or two of these were to go up, is the house is far enough away, we wouldn't have to do an evac. I know you can't.
I'm not gonna give an answer yes or no, because no matter what I say, it's a hot topic and we're in a hot zone, so I'm not gonna say that. What I will say to you is, again, if a fire did occur at that incident or that location, air quality monitoring would be done immediately. We do it on a commercial building fire as well too. We call the state hazmat team in. They come in and will provide air quality monitoring for us. It's becoming a standard on larger unknown buildings. So I'm gonna leave the answer at that. That is the best answer at this point.
I got you.
Thank you.
I understand.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Just your name and address?
Karen Nardone, 17 Pearl Street. What is the plan for decommissioning this facility?
Yep.
20 years from now? Who's responsible for that? And who absorbs the cost of that?
Through the chair,
Yeah.
we are required under the RFP as well as likely the solar zoning bylaw to carry a decommissioning bond. That decommissioning bonds run up by us. It can be peer reviewed as well, however the town looks at that. A lot of towns will have their civil review team also take a look at that cost analysis. So what I do is I go and I get a quote from a company that will take the batteries. And then we also, there's a on-site piece of it. That cost gets run up. There's no scrap value involved. A decommissioning bond for a system like this is upwards of $500,000 decommissioning cost. So you'll see that. And I do want to stress, like, all of your concerns will be vetted appropriately through a planning board process. The zoning board stage is this isn't really the stage for it. That we glad to have the conversations. I think it's very important. We're here for the use on the property and to establish our path forward to be able to actually vet this project appropriately in town. So this is step one of we acknowledge a multi-phase process here, months long of permitting. So I do want to assure you that.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a comment?
Actually, I did poke a beer or put a pin in things, but the applicant is correct. We are here strictly for the zoning bylaw 240-25 for a special permit. Not so much as I want to hear into the workings of this.
Yeah.
It's about the character of the neighborhood, what's in the neighborhood. That's technically what we are here for.
Yes.
As much as I really want to dig into the battery plant.
So,
We are here for the special permit and our other boards will.
If it makes it to the other boards.
If it makes, I got my own.
I have a question for the board.
Oh, did you just say,
When
oh.
you take a vote, on something like this, is it a unanimous vote or is it a majority vote?
Joe should probably answer.
Yeah, Joe?
Does it have to be unanimous?
Special permit, requires 4 out of 5 members, supermajority to approve, a project. So it doesn't need to be unanimous, but it does need to be a supermajority.
Okay.
And the fact that I was remote for the first hour.
We have video showing that you were attending.
There's proof.
Well, I just must go on, we're
We
good.
saw you typing in there.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow, behind you, I was actually putting, sorry. And then you could.
Jim Evans at 9 Arapahoe Road. If the state legislature is currently reviewing the safety protocol and so forth as recommended, would it not be prudent not to approve this before that legislation is already passed or reviewed? In order to make sure that whatever regulations, they're abiding by now are in accord with the new regulations.
I think, yeah, I think, like, Peter
Yeah.
was saying, that would be a planning board. That would be more there for them, but for us, we're kind of, for under our criteria, looking at neighborhood character effects. Like, do the beneficial effects outweigh the negative?
If I may, through the chair. The state policies, the guidance, don't encompass projects of this size. So these projects get pushed to the local boards. It's a very hard avenue to go around the local board with this size of a project through the new regulations that are coming down. Projects over, I don't know the threshold, but we'll say 35 megawatt hours. Is something that needs to go to a streamlined permitting path under this new regulation. So these size projects come to you as a board. And come to planning boards and conservation. They're not able to circumvent the local zoning, like other bigger projects can.
One of the House bills, states that you could not put a project like this within 2,000 feet of a residential area and 3,000 feet within a protected habitat. So that's pretty important.
Or you bring up criteria. I had it in my book all written out and I wasn't planning on actually physically getting here. Is there any way that we can have a look at what the criteria were for us to talk about the
The bill.
criteria of the special permit? I mean, that is. And by all means, I'm with every single neighbor here.
Do you live next to it?
Damn close, yeah.
Like within how far?
You can
Close
just look.
close enough. But look, what we have to deal with the bylaw. And
Which I think the bylaw
It's pretty clear.
at least was.
and that's what I'm, sorry,
Was quoted by.
we're gonna go through the chair, but that's why I'm asking our town administrator to bring up for us, so as a board, we can look at the bylaw.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're tasked to look at
At the bylaw.
what's our area, our purview.
Close to us.
I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I can. Thank you, Joe.
I did have a question in the meantime, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Do you have a 3D model of what it's gonna look like by any chance? I know you took the sharing, but you.
Yeah, I
For
forgot
the
that.
effect of the neighborhood character, I think it would be good to see a 3D model of what it's gonna look like, because right now, we only have a plan view, right?
Good point. I do have a 3D rendering I could toss up when.
If you don't mind, after we're done reviewing these, please.
Can someone read it out loud? It's really small print for those of us
Which-
that are old.
It's the section 240-25 criteria.
Yeah, what are the actual criteria?
So the criteria is, A through F. So A is, basically determination shall indicate consideration of each of the following. A, social, economic, or community needs which are served by the proposal. B, traffic flow and safety. C, adequacy of utilities and other public services. D, neighborhood character and social structures. E, quality of the natural environment, and F, potential fiscal impact.
It's
Solved.
Each one of those topics has to be done.
Let's just, if you want to have discussions, let's take it outside just to keep it under control. Yes. Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm gonna let you go because.
Bellingham. You know, further down the road, when you folks consider what's going on, I hope you'll recall the response from this lady after she was finished. The whole room applauded her for what she did. The integrity of the neighborhood, which is beautiful, especially since they finished the river over. It's gonna change everything. Things change over time, like on Maple Street years ago, there were signs that said scenic byway, scenic road. Gone, no more scenic road down there. But, you know, whatever happens down the road with here, anything could change. So I hope you're taking into consideration the response of everyone.
Technically, I still see private along my road.
Yeah,
You never-
it's listed.
You never know it driving down that road, but technically it still is.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead.
I'm Mike Brennan, live in Franklin Plain Street. I was interested in the neighborhood character comment that if there was voted positive for the build, how that would change if there was a thermal event. The neighborhood character would be completely different. And his comment about the thermal events of the batteries like being on fire happening, I was baffled when he said it's very little impact onto the area. It just goes straight up. I used to work part-time fixing, repairing computers, and as the board member mentioned, I've seen thermal events for lithium-ion batteries before. We had a big sand bucket, a big sand barrel, a big sand bucket when they happen. Even without being right on the fire and being in an open area with no ceiling, I wasn't exposed to the flame directly, but I was exposed to the smoke that just kind of permeates in the area, and it made me sick. Like I felt terrible. It's probably the sickest I've ever got, like in a short instant, because of those thermal events. And these were small batteries. They weren't these gigantic batteries that have thermal events. You know, so that the thermal event would change the character of the neighborhood the second it happened. Just post the bill. It's FYI.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Selena, cousin. I live right over the border on Beach Street. When kids come down here and ride their bikes and go fishing, I mean, I can hear them from my front yard, very close by. You know, what I can't stop asking is like, why here? Right? Like, if any one of these things were put there, I think it would be rejected, right? It's a former brownfield site. There is all sorts of contamination under should we disturb it? Should we have a fire? What is going out into the environment? So just the whole idea that there's this whole unknown with working on that land there as a you know, the most severe of contaminated places in the country are the brownfields. So we have that issue, right? We're in a neighborhood, and not just a neighborhood. I mean, people are making it sound like there's a house here and a house there. It's a thickly settled neighborhood. There are street signs by the town of Bellingham in bright yellow, traffic signs on both sides of the street. One is actually right in front of the mill. That's a thickly settled community. I assume those are warning signs so that when drivers are driving, they know slow down a little. There's lots of people walking their dogs. There's lots of kids riding their bikes. There are people fishing over in the little, you know, people are walking up and down to go to the convenience store, right, at Cumberland's. This is like a densely populated neighborhood. I mean, I don't really know the Bellingham part of it, but from Franklin, when you look at Dover Farms, those houses are packed next to each other. We have condos right down the road, the Hawthorne Village, hundreds of families. You got all of Beach Street, Pine Street, Plain Street, and dozens of streets that come off of that. I mean, how many hundreds of homes are within a half mile of this thing? How many hundreds of homes are within a mile of these? And how many people does that equal out into when you look at adults and children and animals? So when I think of a neighborhood and I think of a thickly populated, densely populated, like lots of people. I mean, I don't know the numbers, you'd probably know better as the town administrator, but there are, you know, when I see the outages, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people living within a half mile of this thing. So on the one hand, you have a very populated area, then you have a brownfield site, right? That to what level it's been remediated, I don't know, there's still piles of debris there that we all know that when things rain and they go up and they come down, it's still going into our environment. Then we say, oh, wait a minute, if I take a walk, because I have been on the entire property and I beg you to please not make any decision without seeing the entire property. Oh my God. But I have walked around. When you go down Plain Street, there's a sign talking about the environmental fragility of the Franklin conservation land that's there and how there are like endangered species and protected habitats, right? What does this noise and this energy do to that, right? And then we have the Charles River. Like I'm looking at, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have all these different things that say, don't do this here. This would be a big mistake. And that's not even looking at fire, risk, explosion, noise, right? This is just, you know, you said that the longest was in Massachusetts, I think you said, was it 2016? So what are the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, and 20-year implications on health for the people living within 300, 500, 1,000 feet of this thing? What are the birth defects? What are the statistics with regards to abortions and stillbirths and miscarriages? What kinds of autoimmune diseases come about? What kind of cancer rates come about? There can't be any details and data about that because they've only been here for less than 10 years, right? I don't feel comfortable with my family. I've been living here for over 20 years. I love this area. I love living here. I can't in good faith keep my family here where it's the only place they've ever known if this is something that you decide. And I beg you not to allow this to continue to go further. I'm not saying don't do it. These things are going to pop up everywhere. I get it. Find a place that's not in such a compromised location in a thickly populated neighborhood. That's our home.
Yep.
I'd like to speak.
Mine's quick. Brian Watton, 32 Ray Ave. Thank you for what you shared. The question is, what is the benefit to the community that most directly going to be affected, especially if something goes south? Because if it goes south, no matter what gets brought up, you're not ever going to be able to rectify any of it. Okay? That risk is enormous. And then we talk about the risk benefit. What is the benefit for these people here?
Yep.
Thank you.
My name is Patricia Dennis. The ecological effect, that sort of thing, I'm concerned with. We have rain barrels all around our house. I live in Dover Farms, a high-end house. And I come from Medfield, which would never allow this on residential area. I can tell you that right now. Their bylaws would not allow it. And it just doesn't make sense. The UPC code went around everybody in that's 100 and something houses signed the petition. And it's going beyond that because we're passing it on to our neighbor friends. Now, I am only a 1/10 of a mile from the Palomino Drive. And this is absolutely a problem. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And as far as driving by that, I'd rather drive by nothing there than to have that there. And yes, that could melt the siding of those houses, the nearby neighbors on Pearl Street, which is very upsetting. But you never know, the wind may blow one way or the other. In any case, homeowners insurance will not cover it either. It is considered a flood zone. So put all that into your pail and think about it, because there's a lot of people are against it, and there'll be a lot to talk about in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're just gonna look at the 3D and then I'll open it back up to the public, but just while it's up.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to see the impact, the.
Since we're talking about character, yes.
Visually here, you've got the energy storage containers, the skids, as well as the auxiliary equipment. Historically here on site, you would have seen dumpsters and containers from the DPW sitting here as well as loaders. trucks.
Yeah.
If I may, visually, it's a very clean site. But the fence will have slats in it as well, so you're not gonna be able to see through it. And we're also, as part of the RFP, we're gonna be putting a brand new fence along Pearl Street with greenery, we're also required through the RFP to enhance the fence around DPW area and a full removal of any invasive species in and around the waterfront. Anything within that 100 foot will remove any invasive species, invasive plants, and as well as kind of mitigation to that riverfront. There's a lot of trash, debris, fence line blocking animal traffic on site to the point that there is an NHESP zone. The backside of this property is heavily wetlands. We've sent in to NHESP back in 2020, doing our diligence on this site. It's solely for a box turtle. The box turtles are mitigated by a silt fence during construction on any other project. That is something that we have to go through for this site as well with NHESP.
And can you just refresh our memory on the dimensions that we're looking at, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
The dimension stuff.
Yeah, so the overall dimensions of, I believe this is, oh, this site's a little different, sorry. I want to say it's 150 feet long by 75. Don't quote me on that, but let me check.
You probably have in the other plan that you have.
The dimensions on that one.
So how about each box?
Oh, so each box is a 20-foot box.
Okay.
So you've got,
Let's just try to keep the.
so you've got a 20-foot container with the black stripe around it. Those are two of them in the first set. Those are about 8 feet wide, 20 feet long. Then you've got a 20-foot skid in front of that, separated by a 5-foot distance, another 5 foot, and you got your auxiliary equipment, 20, 20, 20, so 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 150 odd feet long. And I guess I have, let me.
The numbers on the other drawing.
So this is what our site looks like, right? So this is where the buildings were, way back when. That site's been remediated some through the town over the time. Town spent an immense amount of money on remediating the site. So here we are. There is if you're on site and you're on the side where the system is proposed here, you're looking at it. There's a concrete pad that delineates exactly where the site sits. There's a knee wall that's about 2 feet high that separates the west and the east side of that pad site. On the east side, it's set down 2 feet. So it's taking up that entire padded area. All that concrete will be removed. And so we're gonna clean up the site in that sense. We're gonna put down gravel so that water can infiltrate. And that way it's not such a rush runoff into the river right now. It's carrying all your contaminants right into the river. Anything that's on top of there. So it's an overall enhancement to the site conditions as it sits today.
Are you saying that, so that the part that you said was concrete, is that the base of the former contaminated mill that you're gonna move that?
Yeah.
For the board?
Yeah.
So we're gonna now move it and disturb that land underneath it?
It's asbestos.
asbestos?
That is, I mean, it's been a long time since I've taken chemistry and thermodynamics.
That's a great question, but
It's
it would be
not-
for the zoning board. That's the thing at hand. That's not a question for us.
That probably
Well,
would.
that doesn't add to the neighborhood.
Conservation.
Yeah,
It's sort of a fine line.
and one person at a time. Well, I'll open it back up to the public.
Gentleman down here's got a question.
Okay. His name and address.
Go ahead.
Kenneth Hamway, 39 Weathersfield Road on the other side of town. I just want to clear up first, the process. You're gonna take a vote down the road. If you approve it, does it go to town meeting or does it go to the planning board? maybe Joe can help us with that.
So I can address that. First, just getting to, your last question first. Back on, as Article 14 at the, November 18th, 2020 town meeting authorized, the, ability of the select board to put out an RFP for redevelopment of 26 Pearl Street as solar and or battery storage. So early in the evening, Mr. Corbett had mentioned that his proposal is responding to a request for proposal, RFP. And that's what was executed and a lease signed between the select board and the applicant. So town meeting authorization already occurred for that use. But that's the first step. When you are redeveloping town property, you first have to get permission from town meeting. The second thing is to go in front of the regulatory board, such as the ZBA and the planning board. Here, we already mentioned that this is for a use special permit. That use special permit does not need to go back to town meeting. This would go from the ZBA then to the planning board, because without the use, the planning board wouldn't be able to proceed under the other part of the agreement. The RFP identified that the project proponent would have to go and receive approval under the standards of the large-scale solar bylaw, and that identifies the site plan, and also that's a separate approval, identifying that criteria where many of these issues are going to also be addressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, just quick.
Mr. Lane.
Well, my first question was, my first question wasn't rhetorical, okay? I want to know what the town's actually getting.
Yeah.
And was that meeting taking place during COVID?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anyone know? 44 people voted.
Okay,
Out
this
of
is
the
crazy.
Yeah, that's town meeting.
No, I get it, but come on.
And that's outside of, I would like to say,
But what are we what's the lease for? How much is the lease?
just wanted to, just to the board.
How much?
Oh my God.
Ah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Here, let's just keep, yep, just one at a time. I myself do feel that I would recommend, I feel with the board that having us scheduled to go out to the site, I think would be a good idea,
Yeah, I don't know.
prior to making any decision.
Mr. Hamway, Mr. Hamway still has the floor.
Yeah.
Mr. Hamway?
Yes. Oh, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
So this is town-owned property, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is it currently zoned industrial?
Yes.
It is.
I thought they said no earlier.
They're different.
It's owned
No,
by-
it was-
It's zoned industrial.
Yes.
It's zone industrial, but the use is not listed as a use for industrial property in the town of
Does it
Bellingham.
need to be rezoned?
Not rezoned. They're applying for a special permit for use, because the use they want to use does not fall under industrial out town.
Right, so that raises the question at town meeting. Do we need a 2/3 majority for this project to pass, or is it a simple majority?
There's no action required by town meeting.
No.
In the whole project?
No, town meeting already occurred November 2020.
Was
when
it
it
the
was- when
zoning
this
board,
was in front
the
of you.
planning board, and maybe the conservation board?
Correct.
If any of those three deny it, then it's dead.
You need those regulatory boards to approve the project. Or they could deny, but that decision is appealable, whether it's an approval or denial.
Okay, so,
And then it would go to get to the courts in order to determine the outcome.
so it needs approval from all three.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is the ZBA?
Does
We're
it
gonna
be
be waiting
feelable?
a very long.
Just one vote. Sir, continue.
Okay, I try not to get too nervous as an 82-year-old. But let me tell you what bothers me and what worries me and what makes me nervous. And I've been a journalist for 59 years. What makes me nervous is the word lithium.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me give you just 2 or 3 examples of things that have happened one out of the state and two or three inside. A home, I'm not sure what town. The couple that owned it had a cell phone, and in that cell phone was a lithium battery. They weren't home. The battery caught fire, the house burned to the ground, okay? Second, Wilbraham, 10 buses, school buses, lined up in the school, in the area parking lot. I don't know if you heard about it. It was about 3 months ago. 4 buses, lithium batteries, they exploded. Okay, Braintree. They had a proposal to build one of these things near a Greek Orthodox church. And the fire chief got up and railed against it. And they killed it. Okay. There's a town in Missouri, and unfortunately, I forgot to Google it, but a town in Missouri that had one of these facilities. It caught fire. Here's what happened. Wildlife dead along the roadside. 5 days to get the smoke and the fire expelled. Kids couldn't go to school for 2 to 3 weeks. And the river in this town had a lot of fish in it. And immediately they were floating dead in this river. Nothing good comes of this stuff. That's coming from an 82-year-old.
Take a couple more, we gotta walk a line here, because once we do close to the public, it is closed.
Yeah.
We cannot reopen it.
I see.
Oh.
If we
We can ask if anyone.
we
has
can
any-
continue.
It's a public hearing.
What's that?
What are you saying?
No, I'm saying if we close it to the public, then we discuss it among ourselves. Can we do continuation afterwards and hear the public
No.
comments?
Once you close the public.
Yeah.
Well, you just do a
public,
continuation.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
we can discuss our own thoughts without closing it to the public, though.
Okay.
I think you know it too.
Yeah.
Can you answer this woman's question?
She's been waiting a very long time.
Yes. Yeah. What?
Just going back to basics, my understanding is that the code that's written now is for smaller batteries, not the size batteries that you're putting in. So that would mean another study needs to be done, more data has to be taken to see the results of that before you can do anything. Is that the case?
That's,
And I'm sorry.
I know, I can't speak to that. Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to your question, and I don't think it's for us to discuss. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Our concern is the zoning board. Is the character, ma'am, please let me finish. Is the characteristic of the neighborhood and the impact of the neighborhood, the benefit or the impact of the neighborhood. As a zoning board, there are certain things that we could talk about all day long, our personal feelings, our neighborhood feelings. I mean, we're your neighbors too. We live here too. This affects us, but as a zoning board, we are tasked with the zoning bylaw. Whether we grant a special permit based on the characteristics of the neighborhood, what it would do to the neighborhood and so on. Whether the plant is fireproof or whatever else, it's not what we have to focus on. Unfortunately, that's another board.
Decide what's legal and what's not legal. Right.
Per the zoning bylaw.
Legality, or that, you're using other standards.
No, ma'am, no, we're not. We cannot get into the standards of it. Ours is strictly the usage of the property per the zoning bylaw. I know it hurts to hear that, and it's not what everyone wants to hear, but that is where we have to stand. The use for the zoning bylaw special permit. So our topic and our discussion is based on the things that were just brought up, the characteristics of the neighborhood, the benefits of the neighborhood, disruption of roadways and those things. That's what we have to keep our focus on.
Read that a standard fire company cannot put a fire out, that it would need several towns to be able to put a fire out, and they have to wear special equipment. They can't have the standard equipment that they have. Can you address that?
No, we can't.
No.
We can't.
So, do we feel, I think take maybe a few more?
Yeah, you got a couple more people with their hands to
Dylan
show.
Zimmerly, I live at 19 Pearl Street, right in Bellingham here. I am directly across the street from the proposed facility that's here tonight. Here tonight to strongly express my opposition to the proposed battery storage facility at 26 Pearl Street. My wife and I moved into our house in December of 2020, which was a month after this town meeting, which, if I'm not mistaken, did they already get granted approval to use the property as a battery storage facility?
Yes.
Is that what I was told?
Joe, could
Did
you,
they get approval?
Town meeting authorized the
So,
select
what are we
board
doing here
to.
tonight?
oh, just,
Hold on.
again, we'll just let the town.
So let me just read what the actual motion was.
We're wasting our time here tonight is my question.
Rolling through.
I'm going to do it like this.
So this was Article 14, to see if the town. Sorry, the motion was, I move the town vote to transfer the care, custody, and control of the property described below from the tax custodian for the tax title purposes to the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes and for the purpose of leasing and or to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate and enter into a lease as well as payment in lieu of tax agreement pursuant to General Law, Chapter 59, Section 38 HB, and to convey any necessary access or utility easements on, over, or under any adjacent town-owned property for the development of a solar array and or solar electric storage on town property at 26 Pearl Street, formerly known as Pearl Street Mill Site, identified as Town of Bellingham Assessors Map 4, Parcel 60, for a period of up to 30 years on such terms and conditions as the selectmen deem in the best interest of the town. It passed 44 to 3.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, I believe it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but basically the bylaws say for industrial, you can have a solar array with a secondary use, a battery.
Yeah, but we don't have a
Yeah, and that's why the special permit, because they just want the battery storage.
I know we're not wasting the time. I apologize. I know.
Oh, yeah,
That's all here for a reason. So.
No. Thank you. Yeah, if you
My
want.
wife and I moved in December of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
When moving into our house, our real estate told us, plans for the property across the street. We heard a solar farm, we heard elderly homes, we heard many different things, a park. None of them really raised concerns like this did, when we heard what was being proposed tonight. We have grown as most families do since we moved into our house in 2020. We have 2 boys, aged 3 and 8 months. If you live in the neighborhood, I'm sure you see us riding our bikes, rollerblades, dogs down the street all the time, always in the neighborhood. I don't plan to ever leave our house. I don't plan to ever leave. When we moved in, I love our neighbors. I don't plan to ever leave. And the fear of my family being so close to something like this, like what is proposed tonight, really scares my wife and I. That's why I'm here opposed to it. The environmental safety and quality of life concerns are only a few concerns that come to mind. 26 Pearl Street should be used for something that would add to the community, not something that poses a risk to it. It was talked about 75 decibels the fan motors make relative to a lawnmower. Do you want that going off at 10 at night next to your house? Like, that's Mike's house across the street from mine. If you go to the site, you'll see, that's him running his lawnmower at 10 o'clock at night with my 2 kids sleeping. Like, it's silent over there at night. I love it. I moved out here from Boston. Like, I love it out here, right? I don't want that across the street from my house. Like, it is not safe for anyone. No one in the neighborhood wants it. Put it elsewhere. There's better spots, right? There has to be. There has to be. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just had a question. I'm at 15 Pearl. I'm 2-3 houses diagonal from the property.
Your name?
Sarah. And in 2020, when this was voted on, were the abutters or the neighborhood people made aware of the town meeting? Because there was no sign posted and I was not notified and I did not attend the meeting or get a chance to place a vote. So, kind of like, were we notified that there was a town meeting on this issue?
It's up to us.
Yeah, Joe.
I mean, one, I wasn't here in 2020, so I don't know exactly what.
It was your fault.
Right. But the second thing is that this first was on annual town meeting, in June of of, it was, I believe it was actually first in 2018. It was passed over, brought back up in this November 2020 town meeting. Very often with just warrant articles in general, abutters to land that is a subject to being reviewed by town meeting for consideration for lease sale or other purposes. That does not require any official abutter notification. The warrant itself is posted in public locations, distributed through the website. There's various public hearings where the select board reviewed articles and approved things to be on the warrant. But abutters are typically not notified directly when the town is looking to dispose of town land.
Okay.
What about a sign posted about a hearing? Yeah. There's one posted on Hartford Ave around the corner about the town meeting that I went to because it was posted. But how do we as residents know that this is happening 3 doors down if we're not notified? I unfortunately am not involved as much in the town as
I think that's kind
I could be.
of, the
but-
town meetings, yeah, are just kind of.
But why is that my responsibility? You should notify me if there's something that pertains to me that I may be interested in knowing.
Or signed.
A sign,
Right.
simply a sign, town meeting. In the pandemic, 44 people voted, so there were 50 people at the meeting, and there's 2,000 people in the town. That's not even, that's this many.
During that meeting, it was decided, as far as I'm aware, what was going to be there. What was determined was
Well, you said
that they wanted to
they
use
did
for it.
determine what it was.
Not.
Laid it out.
They're putting out an RFP. They want someone with solar.
So what town meeting did was authorize the select board to develop an RFP to negotiate. Many towns will issue RFPs based on a town meeting authorization. Never proceed because maybe you can't come to terms.
And that's a request for a
Yeah,
proposal, right?
and that's where this is authorization. It doesn't eliminate the regulatory board actions such as the zoning board to review against the zoning bylaw, planning board, as well as conservation against local as well as state bylaws.
So basically, it's, town meeting is step one of many steps that our applicant has to take.
If I may.
Yes.
Yeah, the town meeting established that the select board could seek an RFP proposal and an eventual entering of a ground lease with a awardee for the construction of solar or solar energy storage.
Yeah.
So your bylaws contemplate large scale solar. That also contemplates an auxiliary component of a battery. We're here tonight because there's no actual listed updated bylaw to include the now solar associated energy storage systems. So in order for us to permit our project and have these productive conversations in the appropriate boards, we have to get through the process of allowing the planning board to look at the project by way of a special use permit to allow for the use on the property. That's why we're here tonight.
If it meets
It's for a
those
special
things.
permit.
Oh, right, and so we're in a ground lease with the town, so the town is getting funds for a ground lease. We're required to enter into a pilot. The character of the neighborhood, as you saw, is not gonna be highly impacted. There's gonna
No,
be a
that's your
beautification
opinion.
along the
Yeah.
front of the property. We're enhancing the property frontage with a new fence. And so there's those aspects. Again, everything's gonna get scrutinized through the appropriate process.
Opposition,
Here.
people, please, everything goes through the chair. Opposition is it right for the neighborhood? That's our zoning bylaw. Does it meet our criteria to be adequate for the neighborhood? So you're correct there, but it's a high hurdle for this to be correct for the neighborhood.
Solar plus storage is allowed. So if there was a solar field to go in there,
Would
there would be a battery storage system. I'm just saying that you do allow battery storage on this property already as an auxiliary component.
Okay, what does the rest of the board feel? Do we want to take any more public comment?
You deny it.
No, there's the man in the back street. that was handed
Ready to
for
close
30
it?
minutes.
Is there?
Ready to close
I'll let, you can go ahead. He's been holding his hand up for a long time, so I'll let you go.
Hi.
Yeah.
My name's Tim Rizicki. I live on Blackstone Street, so this isn't even my neighborhood. And what I can appreciate are the comments being made about the purpose of this meeting compared to other meetings, because I know there's a lot that we're trying to figure out. There's a lot of important concepts and figuring out why are we here tonight? So if the purpose for here tonight with your board is to understand how this fits in with the character of the neighborhood and what are the benefits to the neighborhood?
Yes.
Could you please how about just go for definitions? How would you define what is the character of the neighborhood and how something fits in? And can you identify like what are the actual benefits to this neighborhood? We've heard a little bit, but just to really clarify, trying to make it as black and white as possible.
Yes, that's a great point, and that is what.
Especially where the site hasn't been definitely visualized.
That shows in the middle.
I
I'd like to ask you for a continuance to your next meeting.
Okay, so I'll just
We'll consider.
let Joe go ahead.
So just sort of talk about procedural, because I think that there's also some things that were raised that the ZBA may want to also consider and consider, especially the applicant. There may be questions you want to ask of our emergency personnel to respond. That addresses the criteria A through F. You know, some of the things also is that, as was stated, that members may either individual or collectively may want to conduct a site visit. The site visit is, the site is not all that complicated, you know, members could visit individually. They clearly also have 3D renderings and plans, and the applicant would be able to provide additional information that really more is a illustrative street view of what the proposed development may look like, the fencing, the landscaping, those elements. We're looking at a 2D rectangular structure, and so that the board has the full understanding as far as the proposal, but then also in evaluating those other criteria, the board would have additional points in addition to the comments that the abutters and the larger neighborhood is raising. You know, the traffic flow, adequacy of utilities, we haven't really gotten into those elements. And it would be ideal for the applicant to provide comments on those. And you know, also address any potential impacts, and that's plus or minus. You have the executed lease with the select board that is based on a per kilowatt basis. It goes up to approximately $37,000 a year for a 20-year period. But then, as was stated by other people, there are potential impacts, cost of firefighting and fire emergency services. Would there be a fire? Evaluating those to understand those impacts as well. So, you know, they're seeing that there's been a lot of debate at sort of the 2-hour mark. There's still more information that could probably benefit on the record, some of which is really relying on the applicant, but then also on town staff to provide some of this information for the ZBA as well. So.
Didn't answer the question.
No, you didn't answer the question at all.
Has it been?
It's
That's each individual board member. So the gist basically is that we're saying we still want further information, so that we can't answer because we take a vote. And so we could give our own,
You can give us your feedback on how it meets those 6 criteria, right? At this point, what your understanding is, because if more than one of you feels that it is not appropriate, we don't need to keep doing this. Right? This is already the 2nd time that we've come here to try to get rid of this like thing weighing over our heads living in this community.
Yes.
Please,
Is this the second time they
right
present?
thing and
If I may, sure.
Yeah,
If I may,
that's right, the
All right, so
applicant did
because I-
show up for a
this-
problem.
It really, like, I'm struggling to understand, like, hear everybody, so if we could just, like,
One at a time.
yes, please, I'm
Yes.
having a very hard time, and I'm trying to pay attention because this is very important,
Yes.
so.
I think, what does the rest of the board feel?
First of all, we can't skip over the fact that the applicant has asked just now for a continuance. So that first and foremost has to be.
I'm on board with that and just requesting from the applicant kind of to address the bullet points we spoke about in the zoning, so it'd be, you know.
Each of the individual
Yeah,
criteria.
you know, during, let's say there is an event, how's the access, how's the traffic? You know, what kind of effects would it have to the neighborhood character? What are the benefits? What are the detriments? If you know, if the applicant can come back after the continuous.
I would really like to hear what the benefits to the neighbors.
Right, I guess before we get to that, do we feel any more comment from the public, or do we feel we want?
You're only talking about tonight.
Yes, I mean for tonight. Because I apologize, we do try to hear everybody out in the public, we appreciate you showing up. But we do have other items on the agenda, we try to cover as much ground as we can.
I think we should, if we can get our schedules to align, do a group site visit
I
with
definitely
the
agree,
conservation agent. Because I wouldn't wanna go traipsing out there and then disturb some sort of conservation or,
Protected.
yeah, protected.
Species, right.
And if we're doing a site visit as a group, it has to be put as a public meeting, because we have to follow open meeting laws.
Excellent.
Yeah, we do it as a site walk and.
But it has to be published publicly and.
No,
The sidewalk doesn't need to be.
So the town,
no, if you're not discussing it. So you can go, we do it on the Conservation Commission
We
all the
just go
time.
and we don't.
The whole, most of the board will go. You can ask questions to a representative, that's
We
the,
don't discuss.
right, but you don't discuss until.
Yeah,
it's
for
public.
planning, we've done it, we've made it a public meeting, but.
I think you have procedures that the board adopted. That's how you decide to
Okay.
handle it.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
my
By,
apologies.
by
We
law,
spoke
as
with
long
Brent.
as you're not deliberating, you're not discussing, you're just
Okay.
receiving information, it is not a public meeting.
And making your observations.
Yeah.
No, I don't, are you guys allowed to then discuss it with each other? and
No.
make
No.
Observations
No.
other
No.
people can hear?
No, we can
No,
only
not-
discuss in a public forum,
Only
so we can collect
So you're saying
information.
everyone's gonna go quietly, not say anything to anyone else?
No,
No, collect information.
Sounds unrealistic.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
not that we can't communicate with one another. We're
Right.
not gonna deliberate, we're not gonna discuss, you know, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? We can't.
I thought there can't be a quorum together unless it's a public situation.
That's what we do.
What's the bylaw?
Well, we can go in and check process.
Okay, we can decide to,
I'd like to go out with the conservation agent if possible. That is my preference. As.
we can visit separately as well.
Yeah,
We don't know how
that's
to have to be
fine.
there at the same time.
For what purpose?
Why would you do that when you know?
Do we-
that the
I guess the question, because I think they're all anxious, that if we take any more public comment. Do we want to take a couple more, or do we feel we've heard?
I think we make a motion to either accept or deny the applicant's request for continuance. You okay with that, Joe?
The question is, first, before taking a vote on continuance, what you're looking at for a date, so we can fill this in, so the applicant can, sign up.
For continuance or for a site walk?
Well, it doesn't, we can all go separately.
You guys should have already walked the site.
For
You should have already been there.
continuance of this public hearing.
We're just hearing this tonight, so we don't go walking sites.
When is this?
We should already know where it's going.
What would be just the next
meeting.
Next
meeting
meeting
on
will
the
be
7th?
the May 7th meeting.
Is that enough time? I think.
Yeah, it's a month.
Don't make this
Sorry.
enough.
I would.
I can make it work.
I don't think it's gonna work for me, May 7th. What's your following?
Even in June.
Let's do May 7th.
Yeah, 'cause-
I don't know that I can be here personally, but a representative will be here.
Because as we continue it further, we're running into July.
Yeah, it gets messy.
Yeah,
It's real.
Yeah.
told us the less people will show up and then there's gonna be.
Yeah, this,
Understood.
okay, so do we just make a motion then?
This was something continuous.
I'll make a motion to approve the continuance for the next month's meeting.
I'll only second that with the, that we are gonna get feedback from the applicant on what we request, because
Right.
I wanna know how it's gonna affect the neighborhood, what the benefit, negativities, because there's gonna be negativities to the neighborhood. And what benefits you feel that this is gonna provide. Those criteria for special permit.
What about
Certainly.
still, you do legislature?
The project narrative goes through quite a bit of that, but I can bring it forward for you and I can identify
I guess
each
this bullet
section.
point, yeah,
Yeah, I can do that for you. Not a problem.
I'll second the motion.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, okay.
Want to discuss the sidewalk?
So could you tell us in like real word what that means? So
We are continuing
the
it.
meeting, you're gonna go see it and then we come back and start the meeting again on the 7th of May?
Oh, it's on
Well, it's
Yeah.
still open, the meeting, right?
Still-
Meeting's still open, we haven't
The
closed.
same criteria that you guys listed before,
Yes,
that
We're gonna talk about those
most of
further.
us could probably understand, sorry, make a decision.
Why doesn't the zoning board know where this property is located, or why are they not familiar with it? I work full time, I'm going to the site, I'm going to the site, and if you claim you are going to the site, now we're going to the site.
Mr. Chairman, this is our first meeting here.
this,
I know, just please. There were comments made which were very legitimate, that every member of the board or those who can go should attend and do a site walk. So we agree. I've been there and I think it would benefit people to take an observation the way that I did. So I think that'd be beneficial, and that's one of the things that we decided makes sense, and that's one of the reasons we're postponing it.
There's something on the.
What's the benefit to the town overall? Why would you approve it?
We're not discussing what our benefits are now. We don't.
The meeting is continued.
We're not gonna discuss this anymore.
Did you vote?
yes, yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for your patience.
We do.
So really appreciate you coming.
It's not small, yes, but like.
I'll get you with.
I know it's.
Was for them to provide the explanation. Regulations why you should or shouldn't vote. I sat here and I sat here and listened to this about engineering and so on and so forth. He is so far off base asking what is there. He provided no boring test. He provided no scouring.
Yes, hold on, go ahead, we're still. Covering and discussing.
I'm not asking you to defend it. They wanted to point this out. Is that what he introduced was never addressed. That which you're asking him to address also has to be that which he stated, which was his engineering drawing, his 17,000-gallon tanks. There are questions surrounding all of that. That he needs to answer. That's not for our board. No, that's what I'm saying. If he's introducing it to this board, of what you said it to you and why did we have to sit through it? If it is relevant information to the permit, then we must address that relevant information. Otherwise, whatever he said has to be dismissed. It's not relevant to the permit. If it's relevant to the permit, let's get it out there. I got 20 people in back.
Both sides. Both sides are doing that. So we have to.
Well, no, he's the one who made the presentation based upon drawings, engineering, flows, all kinds of things that no one questioned. No one was allowed to question. He is presenting that as part of his presentation as to why the permit should be granted. We, the opposition, will be allowed to cross-examine on his information.
Sir, the only thing we are gonna discuss, and I am gonna ask the chairman to shut this down, is the special permit, the usage, 240 permit. Whether it's criteria, special permit, his flow, his designs.
Are irrelevant.
Are irrelevant to us.
To a certain extent, but
To some extent. Yeah,
We are still in the open.
They're irrelevant.
we are taking all your.
But they're irrelevant, and if they are treated as relevant, then I would reserve the right to bring in my people or myself to question those relevant items. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Okay.
With the legislation, that it needs to be a minimum of 2,000 feet away, what happens if that gets?
That's not,
that's not,
You can still say, let's move ahead with this if the state says it needs to be a minimum.
By that by.
Special permit, usage on industrial.
that's the only thing we're allowed.
Can
vote on that.
Those questions are.
Just so you know.
For.
Had the information, I mean, I read the six criteria.
Been working on this.
I mean, it seems, I mean, I've taken chemistry and advanced chemistry and engineering and, you know, I mean.
Chemistry years in advance. It is not my decision. This will likely.
It wasn't zero, when you're looking at what you were supposed to be looking at, you could have made a clear decision.
So, we also have to be conscious of this time, you want.
Well, because there's a lot of people's time, one person.
What those.
He's getting paid,
Back to.
right, a lot of money.
When you're all volunteering.
Time, I understand.
Other people too, just try to join us, that would be great.
Why?
I mean, you're making a decision, it's gonna affect like thousands of people for the next, I have to move my family.
Where are we today is we have.
And I would like to know.
That's why it's valuable.
I'd like to know specific numbers, how many people live within a mile, how many people live within a half a mile.
This is for.
That's not something.
How many houses there are,
He hasn't executed.
that doesn't have to.
I know.
He does not have-
It's
So
a-
many people are minors.
How many people live within the evacuation zone?
There is no evacuation zone.
We're gonna have to continue with other.
No, that's why, that's why it's there. So.
He has a lease that if permits were issued, correct, he could proceed based upon the valuation.
I know.
Oh, really?
I'm like, what did I know?
Yeah.
with that agenda item.
You
For the visit.
I think, you know, I don't think always done that or voting more. I don't think you voted.
Personally, I'd rather, it'd probably be better if we didn't go together, just because you never know what you're gonna say and what could be.
Exactly.
It's town office, right? So we don't, we kind of go, whenever. Yep. That's like.
Is it? Just step on?
No, I mean, that's,
walked all over the site today.
yeah, I mean.
It's fine.
We have,
I
we
spent
have
an hour
an
walking the
LSP
site.
that signed off on the project. I'm asking staff to provide the copy of the report. It was remediated. Because we wouldn't be starting a process if we haven't done a site, but I don't.
I don't wanna get into those details about, soil testing, ground.
No, that's not us.
Great job, by the way, Joe, because you're just
We
kind
have
of.
to start talking about this,
You
right?
know.
But no, we're talking about sidewalk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just didn't wanna, end up, with the salamanders or the turtles or whatever's out there.
I'm on the Conservation Commission.
Don, you can
And-
show me around.
I'm happy to show anybody
where
around.
it's going on the site, though, someone there tell me where it's going.
No, this was helpful because I had to imagine where they were gonna put it.
Yeah.
Based on the drawing that we had,
Concrete.
which was helpful.
footprints.
Yeah, and I think I was pretty accurate, like in understanding, and I think if you take a walk through it, and I'm happy to join anybody
And
who's interested.
sometimes, well, again, this was on planning, but we would have them stake it out so that you could visualize it. We
Right.
didn't ask him to do that.
We don't need to for this one, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah, Brian had us put balloons up on it.
Couple times.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Okay.
But there's some things that I can do to help facilitate.
Right.
And I'll reach out to see about,
Thinking.
pinning the corners.
Yeah, how would
Spray
it,
painting.
I guess if people wanted to go together, is there any?
You want, it's
Do
ideal.
we
if
have
you're
it that
under your
people could go
quorum number.
individually or some people?
No,
could
if
go
you're under
together?
your quorum, what's the quorum for this board? Is it 3 or 4?
Right.
So three, so if two people go, then you can't be accused by anyone of having an unauthorized public meeting. So that's what we would do in our board, I
With the,
think.
with the exception if those two people then deliberated, that's.
Right, you still can't deliberate.
yeah, no,
You still
no.
can't deliberate. You still can't deliberate.
Exactly.
But, I mean, we do site visits, like, on the conservation side all the time. I mean, there were three of us there on Saturday, and we did this past Saturday, and we did a site visit. And a bunch of us are gonna do it again this next Saturday to some more sites.
Yeah.
You just don't deliberate.
So you don't put something together for a site visit, or are we just gonna take that?
I think we just do it.
Remember to reach out to whoever and get it.
I'll give I'll give you off the record here when we're off, I'll give you my cell phone. And because I'm retired, so my schedule is fairly flexible. And if you guys want me to show you what I walk the perimeter, you don't need to spend as much time as I did. Because I was trying to figure everything out, but I can show you the perimeter and I can show you where the Charles is and where the protected areas are, and you'll get a sight. I want to get a feel for the neighborhood. What does it look like?
Yeah.
That was really what I was kind of going there
Got a
for.
long enough day. Excellent job, Mr. Chairman.
Approval of minutes?
Yes.
I read them, they were good.
I'm good.
We have to approve the decision that was written and rewritten.
I'll be then after the minutes.
Okay. I don't have an issue with these.
Yeah.
I abstained because I wasn't at that.
March fifth.
At that meeting.
I've been by that area though. I do know the area.
This is my,
You were up till 4 a.m. Oh,
Spent the whole day at the vineyard. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I was absent, plus I can't vote either.
Dawn and Ray can't vote on the minutes, but we have 4 people.
There's 4 people.
okay. All those in favor?
Oh, we haven't seconded yet.
I did.
He did. Say aye.
I.
Okay. And then
I-
review of Prospect Hill Village.
Yes, I found one typo in that. Amy did fix it. She had the meeting dates incorrect. But it has been fixed.
Okay.
Other than that, I was good with it.
I wasn't
good.
here and I didn't.
3 meetings in March.
I thought I should stay away from it since I wasn't participating.
Yeah, there was one thing. Just on page 2. Paragraph 3, is that correct? As stated in the planning board's development plan approval decision, the board determined that the proposal met the requirements of the Bellingham zoning bylaw subject to the conditions listed in section. So is that, I just wanted to make sure that first sentence is true. So this is by us, this is the zoning board stating that? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with it. Just because it's the planning board's development.
Yeah, like
But-
as if the planning board provided testimony, that was.
That's
your
almost what
question.
it seemed
Yeah.
like to me, but this is us making
Yeah,
it. It was
exactly.
a little just unclear, I'm fine with it. That's, just want to confirm that point. Otherwise, yeah, that was just the dates. For me.
The board vote spelled my name wrong, definitely vote the spelling errors. I don't need my name's even some more, even closer to a curse word.
So, I mean, that's just a Scrivener's error and I can, because the signature page is on the following page. I can, just have Amy correct that and insert, that replacement page.
Okay. Yeah. An extra F there.
Right, this profile.
Yeah, just control H, replace all, and the IXS or and it was multiple locations, so.
What's it really?
Yeah. Those, if you just control H, replace all, it'll be fine. Otherwise, yeah, Motion to approve the minutes as written with the changes that we recommended for the dates and the.
No, decision.
Decision.
The decisions, not. Decision. Long day.
I've had a long one.
Motion to approve the decision by the zoning board, with the recommended changes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then here's just 3 originals to sign, and we'll correct that page with the 2 spelling errors.
Yeah.
Reliving it.
Ironically, I think I spoke more at this meeting than I did in the entirety of all my time on the Conservation Commission. Because I'm usually pretty quiet, and I sit and observe, but.
Yeah, I'm back.
You, thanks for coming in. No, seriously.
Yes.
I took the
That's
7
great.
AM boat to the vineyard and the 6 o'clock boat back off the vineyard.
Oh, wow. That's a day.
I am tired. I couldn't find the unmute button on my phone. I'm on the highway, I'm trying to find the unmute button.
I just picture you're like going 90, trying
I'm
to
just
reach
not,
over, trying to find the unmute buttons.
I found the camera button a few times, I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Okay.
There you go, sir.
Motion closed.
I will make a motion to close the hearing.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hitting stop recording.